Hi, welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and today I wanted to talk about my November TBR slash pile of possibilities. November is quite a reading month with lots of really fun readathons happening, most notably Nonfiction November, which is hosted by a book olive. I'm super excited about that read along, but also there's a read along that I'm co-hosting called A Rating Project Gutenberg, and I'm co-hosting that with Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, Kate from Literary Apothecary, Stephanie from Miss Richards Reads, and Mark from Book Time with Elvis. And so that's super fun. I'm really looking forward to that readathon as well. And then Historathon is happening as well, which I've yet to participate in any of the Historathon readathons yet because I'm not super big into historical fiction. Honestly, I don't read a lot of it, but I'm kind of in a historical fiction-y kind of mood. So I'm placing a couple books on this TBR that potentially could work for that. I'll have all the co-hosts for all of these readathons listed down below in the description of the video. So that way you can find them, find their announcement videos, find recommendations that they might have for you as well. Okay, so let's start with Nonfiction November, because I'm super pumped. I have one book for sure that I'm reading, and then I have two other potential books that I'm trying to decide between the two because I don't think that I will get all three of these read. So the one that I am reading for sure is The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. This is actually like a story about a serial killer, so it's very kind of like true crime. It's actually murder, magic, and the madness at the fair that changed America. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one. I'm actually buddy reading it with Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space. So I do have the audiobook for this on hold from my library, so I may do some listening to it, but obviously I do own the physical book as well. There are multiple different prompts for Nonfiction November. I'm not super focusing on the prompts because to me, if I read one nonfiction, I'm going to be doing pretty well because I don't necessarily read a nonfiction every single month. So I feel like I'm winning if I complete one whole book, but I would like to complete at least two. But one of the prompts is secret, and I feel like a serial killer is really a good secret. And another prompt is border, and this has a border around. So I guess it could count for multiple prompts if I end up using it for that. Also, you know, I guess it could work for record as well because it's kind of like a record of what happened. But anyways, I am really excited to be reading this one. Okay, so I have two other books that I'm trying to decide between. Both of them were on my nonfiction TBR for this year, which I am failing miserably at. There were only 8 books on that TBR, but a lot of them are pretty big, and then I ended up just like not being in the mood for most of them. So the first one that's on this list is Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. I've had this book for a really long time, and actually it's going to be one that my daughter ends up reading in high school if we continue to use the same curriculum that we are currently using. So I'm super interested in reading this one. November is also like Indigenous Peoples History Month, and so this would be a perfect fit for it. Obviously, it's going to be a really heavy and a really sad read. And also last year when I was trying to choose a book for my nonfiction TBR for Nonfiction November, I had a poll up, and this was one of the books. And it didn't make it, obviously, because I have not read it. So this is one of my options. The other option is The Romanov Sisters by Helen Rappaport. So last month I read Romanov by Nadine Brandes, and that really kind of like spurred me to want to read more about the Romanov family. And so that's why this is on here. I mean, it's been on here for my whole year of nonfiction TBR anyway. I'm super fascinated by Russian history, so I would like to get to this one. So it's kind of like between these two as to what I would like to read besides The Devil in the White City. I feel like this one works for potentially for secret because there's all kinds of like mystery surrounding kind of like what happened to Anastasia. So I don't know if this book addresses that at all, but it also would work for record because it is a record of their lives. And then I feel like this one works really well for the borders prompt because, you know, it's kind of about like Native Americans being like pushed across state borders and borders of where their land was supposed to be, and just kind of like all of that kind of thing. Could also work for record as well. I don't have anything out of any of these that would work for element unfortunately. But I mean, between these 3 books, I for sure have like 3 of the 4 prompts covered. Okay, so for Reading Project Gutenberg, which is a readathon that I am co-hosting with some friends. I'll link my readathon announcement video in case you haven't seen it already. Our group read is Erasmus by Samuel Johnson, and so I will definitely be reading that. And my prompt for the readathon is a classic that is less than 300 pages. I just recently came out with a video that had a recommendation of 15 classics that were under 300 pages. Some of them I'd read, some of them I haven't read. So I may pick a book off of there that I haven't read to kind of fulfill that prompt, but I'm undecided as of yet because I have plenty of books on the stack, and so I don't want to like overburden myself. I'm for sure committed to Rassless, which will also complete my prompt, by the way, because Rassless is under 300 pages. So I fulfilled that prompt either way. And then I'm also for sure planning to get to Christy's prompt, which is to edit a page of a book on Project Gutenberg. So those 2 prompts for sure I'm getting to, but I may choose another classic that is under 300 pages. I just am not sure whether or not I will have time for that. So we'll see. Okay, then Historathon. So the way they have their prompts set up this year are so fun. There's like 3 paths that you can follow, and it's got like 1 prompt, and then that prompt will connect you to the next one, which will connect you to the next one. So for example, like one of the prompts, I think it might be like has a protagonist of a different ethnicity than you or something like that. And then the next prompt is like a book that was blurbed by the author of the first book. And so it's stuff like that. It's all connected like that, which is super fun. However, I will not be following those prompts because I have too many books on my TBR to be able to follow those prompts effectively. So I have 2 books here, and I'm not sure which one I'm going to read, but I'm going to read one of them during the month of November. So the first one is The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. Last November, I read The Kitchen God's Wife by Amy Tan and just loved it. It was just so well written, and it was super interesting because it was a World War II fiction, but it was like what was happening in China during World War II. And I'd never read any historical fiction that was set that way before. When I read it, a ton of you said to me that you hadn't read that one, but that you absolutely loved The Joy Luck Club. So I've had The Joy Luck Club for a while. I think I got it from like Thrift Books or Better World Books or something like that. I got it from some order somewhere for a couple dollars. And so I've had it, and I love this cover. It actually matches The Kitchen God's Wife. That looks almost exactly like this, but the background is green instead of red. But I love the design on this, and it's super short, which is part of the reason why I was considering reading it, but also because I read an Amy Tan book last November. I don't really know too much about what this is about, other than it's about, like, I think several Chinese immigrant women who end up moving to maybe California or something, and they end up meeting together and sharing their life stories. My other option that I'm not sure that I'm going to read because it's really thick is The Fountains of Silence by Ruta Sepetys. I love Ruta Sepetys. I have read 3 of her books so far and have really enjoyed every single one of them, but so far my favorite one is Between Shades of Grey. This is much thicker. This is about a dictatorship in Spain in 1957. I don't know anything about that, but books that involve dictatorships are super interesting to me. Like, that just sucks me in immediately. So it is one I have wanted to read, but like I said, it's really thick. I don't know how many pages it is. Oh, it's only like, it's a little less than 500 pages. It just feels like super thick. So this is a potential one of these 2, kind of leaning towards this one because it's thinner, but Fountains of Silence is YA, so I feel like it might actually read quicker than it looks. Okay, let's move on to buddy reads. So in addition to Rassless and The Devil in the White City, I have 2 other buddy reads. So that's a lot of buddy reads for me. Generally, I try to keep it to like 2 buddy reads a month. So to have 4 is a lot. I had 4 last month for Victober, but the way that it was scheduled out was kind of perfect. So I'm hoping that this will be perfect as well because one of these buddy reads I'm reading in the first half of the month and the other one in the second half of the month. So the buddy read I'm reading in the first half of the month is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is my very first Robin Hobb that I've ever read, and I'm really looking forward to it. I actually have the whole Farseer trilogy, so if I love this, I have the other books. This one's really beat up, like the spine's rough and it's like not in the best shape, but I got this from a library book sale for 10 cents, so I'm not complaining that it's not in the best shape. I'm buddy reading this with my friend Jessica, and I am really looking forward to reading this with her. We've actually read quite a few books together this year, and we have another book that we're reading together next month as well. So that is super fun. The buddy read that I am reading in the second half of the month is Little Men by Louisa May Alcott. I'm reading this with my subscriber friend Alyssa. We actually buddy read Little Women together last December, and now we're reading Little Men together, which is super fun. This book is also for the Read Your Bookshelf prompt for the month of November, which is a cozy or nostalgic read. So I definitely feel like it fits the bill for cozy. It might feel a bit nostalgic to me despite the fact that I haven't read Little Men before. I hadn't read Little Women until last year, which was one of those classics that I was like, why have I not read this? Why? And I loved it, and Little Women actually ended up being my favorite book of the entire year. I don't anticipate loving Little Men as much as I loved Little Women, but I could be wrong. So then, for the Buzzwordathon, the prompt for the month of November is a word ending in ing. So I've been trying to use the Read Your Bookshelf challenge and the Buzzwordathon to help me get through my read or rid project list. If you haven't seen that video that I put out, I think it was either end of last year, beginning of this year, I'll link it so you can check that out. But basically, I have a list of books that I need to read by the end of this year, or I need to just get rid of them because they have been on my shelves for way too long. So I didn't use the Read Your Bookshelf challenge this month for the Read or Rid project. I actually picked something off of my classics TBR instead. But I have 2 books that work for the Buzzwordathon prompt of ending in ing from my Read or Rid list. The first one is Queen of the Tierling by Erica Johansson. So YA fantasy, first in a trilogy. I remember my friend Dia actually really liking this, but she said that a lot of people hate how the trilogy ends, and as a result, just don't like the trilogy that much as a whole. Well, I like this. I don't know. No clue what it's about. Picked it up on a whim at a library book sale for like 10 cents or 25 cents. So yeah, we'll see. This is one of the options. I might try to read both though of my options. My other option is I'd Rather Be Reading by Anne Bogle. This is also a nonfiction. It's written by someone, I think her blog name is Modern Miss Darcy. So she's a reader and she blogs. She might even have a podcast at this point too. I'm not really sure, but this is also a nonfiction, so I guess it would count for Nonfiction November. Super short little book, just about, I think, like the joys of reading in general. I just realized this could work for the element prompt because I'm in my element when I'm reading. Am I twisting that a bit? Sure, but the prompts are open-ended. I can use them however I want. Olive already gave us permission. So yeah, those both end in ing. They are both on my Read or Rid project list. So hopefully I'll get to both of them, or at least like try chapters of them to see if they're ones that I want to continue with. So in addition to this plethora of books, I have a couple of books that I did not finish from October. One of those is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I basically finished it. I have an hour left on the audiobook, but technically it will get finished in November rather than October. It was a reread for me, so I do already know how it ends. But yeah, so that one is still technically ongoing, but I will finish that probably like today. And then the other one is one that I'm actually considering DNFing, just not quite sure yet. That's The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I don't feel like I want to DNF this one because I don't like it or because it's bad. It's just not really gripping me all that much, and I think that maybe I'm just like not in the mood for this kind of a book. I was listening to it on audio, but I had to wait a super long time for my library to get the audio, like several months, and then I didn't finish it in time. I got about 30% of the way through, and I'm still about a third of the way through the physical book, and I've read a couple of chapters physically, and I'm not enjoying it physically. I liked it way more listening to it on audio because I loved the accents. I felt like the attitudes of the characters came out more, and I just found it super enjoyable as an audiobook, but I'm not really enjoying it physically, so it might get DNF'd, but I'm kind of leaving it open-ended for right now. So there you have it. There is my November TBR / pile of possibilities, because no way am I going to get to every single one of these books, but I'd like to get to most of them. I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. What are your reading plans for November? Are you participating in any readathons? Because there's so many wonderful ones going on, and I just want to participate in all the things, but I also don't want to burn myself out. So I'm hoping that I haven't bit off more than I can chew. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me, and I will see you again next time.